All right, now we will hear about monks and missionaries. Two of our favorite things.
All right, so monks and missionaries. All right, so monks. So simply put, a monk is a person who practices religious asceticism by monastic living, either alone or with any number of other monks. A monk may be a person who decides to dedicate his life to serving all other living beings or to be an ascetic who voluntarily chooses to leave mainstream society and lives his or her life in prayer and contemplation. Within Roman Catholicism. Got it.
Yeah.
A monk is a member of religious order who lives a communal life in a monastery under a monastic rule of life, such as the rule of Saint Benedict. Saint Benedict of Nursia is considered to be the founder of Western
monasticism.
Oh my gosh, monasticism. Right. He authored the rule of Saint Benedict, which is the foundation for the Order of Saint Benedict and all of its reform groups. He founded the great Benedictine monastery, Monte Cassino, in 529.
Yes.
All right, so the religious vows taken in the West were first developed by Saint Benedict. The vows were 3 in number: obedience, conversion of life, and stability. Obedience calls for the monk to obey Christ as represented by the superior person of the monastery, which is an abbot. Conversion of life means generally that the monk convert himself to the way of a monk, which is death to self and to the world, and life to God and to his work. A Christian monk is to be an instrument of God's work. Stability entails that the monk commit himself to the monastery for the remainder of his life, and so, upon death, will be buried at its cemetery. The vow of stability is unique to Benedictines.
Yes.
The monastic life generally consists of prayer in the form of liturgy of the hours, divine reading, and manual labor. Among most religious orders, monks live in simple, rigid rooms called cells and come together daily to celebrate the conventual mass and to recite the liturgy of the hours. In most communities, the monks take their meals together in refectory, while there is no vow of silence. Many communities have a period of silence lasting from evening until the next morning, and some others restrict talking to only when it's necessary for the monks to perform their works. The early Middle Ages was a period of widespread missionary activity. By spreading Christianity, missionaries aided in the fusion of Germanic and classical cultures. Monasteries served as havens for those seeking a contemplative life. One of the earliest Christian missionaries to the Germans was Ulfilas, who spent 40 years among the Visigoths and translated most of the Bible into Gothic. Another great missionary, Patrick, was born in England about 389 and later fled to Ireland to escape the Anglo-Saxon invaders. As a result of his missionary activities in Ireland, monasteries were founded and Christianity became the dominant religion. In the late 6th and 7th centuries, a large number of monks from the Irish monasteries went to Scotland, northern England, the kingdom of the Franks, and even to Italy. The Irish monks eagerly pursued scholarship, and their monasteries became storehouses for priceless manuscripts. The English church, in turn, played an important part in the expansion of Roman-controlled Christianity on the continent. Boniface, the greatest missionary from England in the 8th century, spent 35 years among the Germanic tribes known as the Apostle to the Germans. He established several important monasteries before he turned to the task of reforming the church in France. There he revitalized the monasteries, organized a system of local parishes to bring Christianity to the courtside, and was instrumental in forming the alliance between the papacy and the Carolingian house. Roman Catholic missionaries also worked among the Scandinavians and the Western Slavs. Yeah. Monks and monastery had a deep effect on the religious and political life of the early Middle Ages, in various cases acting as land trusts for powerful families, centers for propaganda, and royal support in newly conquered regions, and bases for missions. They were the main and sometimes only regional outposts of education and literacy. Many of the surviving manuscripts of the Latin classics were copied in monasteries in the early Middle Ages. Monks were also the authors of new works, including history, theology, and other subjects written by authors such as Bede.
No, Bede.
Bede? Oh,
The
Bede.
Venerable Bede. He wrote the Ecclesiastical History of the English Church. He's buried. Well, you can go see his tomb. I can take you there someday.
And then monks were ideally suited for missionary ventures, in that not only were they tightly disciplined and under obedience to their superiors, but it made them ready to move into their potential hostile territories. And yeah.
Okay, do we have questions? All right. Well, that's an important topics that you have here for us.